equal. But you look at me and you look at Small Joe, and you can see that statement is not true.
When you think of Scott Steiner, it's almost impossible not to think of his Bad Math promo, the one where the numbers made no sense, but he delivered it with so much confidence, you almost believed him. It was chaotic, hilarious, and somehow became one of the most iconic moments in wrestling. Funny thing is, out of all his matches and wild antics, it was that nonsense math rant that blew up. Just goes to show, sometimes it's the most unexpected stuff that makes you famous. Scott Steiner might be best known for his Bad Math, that legendary 2008 promo in TNA, where he completely butchered statistics while talking about his chances of winning a match. It made no sense at all, but the way he said it with full confidence turned it into an instant classic. That wild moment became known as Steiner Math, and it's been parodied ever since. It perfectly captured just how unpredictable and over-the-top Steiner's character really was. But if you think that math meltdown is the only reason he's been in the spotlight, you're in for a ride. Because Steiner's name has popped up a lot, and not just for promos and matches. After his time in TNA, things got heated, literally, during a WrestleMania weekend. Scott reportedly confronted Hulk Hogan's then-wife Jennifer at an airport, claiming he had some things to get off his chest about Hogan's backstage behavior in TNA. That encounter led to Hogan allegedly calling the cops, accusing Steiner of assault and threats, which actually got Steiner banned from the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony in 2015. Yeah, that's intense, and it only gets crazier. On a podcast, Scott once casually admitted that he and his brother Rick bullied a referee in WCW, supposedly as a prank, but also because they were trying to get fired for financial reasons. That prank? Just wait, because Eric Bischoff shared his own story from his first day in WCW, where he saw the Steiner Brothers duct taping a referee naked and shoving a pencil where the sun doesn't shine, all in the name of Steiner retribution. Nobody even knows what the poor guy did to deserve it. Then there's the time he allegedly refused a drug test during his WWE return in the early 2000s, unless Triple H took one too. Apparently after that challenge, WWE just never asked again. Classic Steiner move. And of course, no Scott Steiner story is complete without some truly out there comments. In a 2017 media call, he took aim at Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, criticizing how they were running WWE. But he didn't stop there. He even brought up the long-whispered rumor about a supposed relationship between a young Stephanie and Macho Man Randy Savage. Steiner joked that if WWE ever made a statue of Savage, it'd probably end up in Stephanie's bedroom. And just when you think that's the end of the madness, there's the Ring Ka King incident. While working for the Indian wrestling promotion, Steiner played the villain like he always did, but the local crowd, unfamiliar with the scripted nature of wrestling, thought it was real. His antics caused such panic that it turned into a near riot, with people in the audience running for the exits like chaos had broken out. At this point, you can't help but wonder how Scott Steiner managed to have such a solid career with all the chaos constantly following him. But believe it or not, he's actually been successful right from the start of his career. His journey kicked off in the mid-'80s when he trained under Dr. Jerry Graham Jr. in the Sheik at Torio's Health Club in Toledo, Ohio. He stepped into the ring in 1986 with the World Wrestling Association and wasted no time making an impact. Just a couple of months into his career, he beat the Great Wojo to win the WWA World Heavyweight Championship. Not bad for a rookie. He eventually dropped the title in 1987, but by then, he was already turning heads. Scott then teamed up with his trainer, Jerry Graham, and the duo won the WWA Tag Team titles later that year. It was clear from the beginning, Scott had something special, whether solo or in a team. In 1988, he joined the Continental Wrestling Association in Memphis and quickly picked up more tag gold, this time with Billy Joe Travis. After a few title wins and losses, Scott teamed up with Jed Grundy for one last run before parting ways with the promotion in early 1989. That same year, Scott Steiner debuted in World Championship Wrestling. At first, he was just backing up his brother Rick, but it didn't take long for the two to become one of the most explosive tag teams in wrestling. The Steiner brothers quickly made their mark, even bringing their pet pit bull Arnold to the ring. They feuded with Kevin Sullivan, Mike Rotunda, and Doom, all while managed by Missy Hyatt. One of the early highlights came in late 1989 when they won the NWA World Tag Team titles by defeating the fabulous Freebirds. Their popularity skyrocketed. The Steiners weren't just dominant in the US, they became international stars too. In 1991, after winning both the WCW World Tag Team and IWGP Tag Team Championships, they were dubbed Triple Crown Champions. Around this time, Scott also started branching out into singles competition and even defeated Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Bobby Eaton in a special gauntlet series, earning a cool $10,000 in major respect. In 1992, Scott captured the WCW World Television Championship, but vacated it soon after when he and Rick left WCW due to contract disputes. That led them to WWE, where they nearly shook up the entire landscape. WWE officials were high on Scott and even pitched the idea of him winning the 1993 Royal Rumble and becoming world champ at WrestleMania 9. But both brothers were committed to sticking together as a team. Their WWE run saw big matches and title wins, including a back-and-forth feud with Money Inc. and a standout match at SummerSlam '93 in their home state of Michigan. But by early 1994, after a controversial loss to the Quebecers, the Steiners quietly exited WWE. From there, they headed back to Japan, wrestling full-time through 1995. After dominating Japan and making noise around the wrestling world, the Steiner brothers took their talents to a new battlefield, Extreme Championship Wrestling. On July 28, 1995, they showed up in ECW at the Orange County Fairgrounds in Middletown, New York, and made a statement right away by defeating Devon Dudley and Vampire Warrior. Rick had already been making solo appearances there since April, but now with Scott by his side, the full force of the Steiner brothers was unleashed. The next few weeks were packed. On August 4th, they beat Devon again, this time teaming with Too Cold Scorpio and Jim Thorpe in Pennsylvania. A night later, they had their big ECW arena debut at WrestlePalooza, teaming with Eddie Guerrero in a chaotic match against Scorpio, Dean Malenko, and Cactus Jack. Even in defeat, the Steiners looked like absolute killers. They bounced back fast, defeating Scorpio and Malenko, then Scorpio and Chris Benoit in back-to-back nights. They kept bulldozing teams across Pennsylvania, even knocking off the Dudleys again in Kennett Square. But ECW was wild and unpredictable, and at Gangsta's Paradise on September 16th, they teamed with Taz and took a tough loss to the Eliminators and Jason. Still, the Steiners weren't going anywhere quietly. A week later, they beat Raven and Stevie Richards in Middletown, and by the end of October, Scott made his final ECW appearance, teaming with Taz again in a hard-hitting loss to the Eliminators. In March 1996, the brothers returned home, back to WCW. They jumped right into the tag team scene, winning the titles from Harlem Heat in July, only to lose them 3 days later. The stakes kept rising with the arrival of the NWO. The Outsiders stole the spotlight, and the Steiners went to war with them. They actually beat Hall and Nash at Sold Out in January 1997, but Eric Bischoff stripped them of the belts in classic NWO fashion. Still, the Steiners kept chasing gold, and in October, they finally won the titles again, this time beating Hall in 6, with Nash out injured. But then everything changed. Scott Steiner began to look different, bigger, more intense, and unpredictable. By early 1998, he was growing distant from Rick. He'd start matches without tagging him in, or worse, just leave him hanging. Then at Super Brawl 8, the hammer dropped. Scott betrayed his brother mid-match and handed the belts to the Outsiders, joining the NWO. The next night, a new Scott Steiner was born. Blonde hair, goatee, chainmail, sunglasses, and a brand new nickname, Big Poppa Pump. Scott embraced his new persona fully, becoming one of WCW's most intimidating heels. He teamed with Buff Bagwell, feuded with Rick, and later took over leadership of NWO Hollywood. Over the next few years, he became a central figure in WCW, winning the US and TV titles, beating legends like Goldberg and DDP, and eventually capturing the WCW World Heavyweight Championship in late 2000. When WCW closed in 2001, Scott didn't rush to WWE. Instead, he wrote out his contract, then re-emerged in WWA, cheating his way to their world title. He even returned to Japan in 2002 for NJPW's 30th anniversary show, teaming with Rick one last time. After a long 8-year absence, Steiner made a thunderous return to WWE at Survivor Series 2002 in Madison Square Garden. The crowd erupted as he interrupted a promo by Matt Hardy and Christopher Nowinski, who were trash-talking New York City. Steiner stormed the ring and laid them out, instantly re-establishing himself as a fan favorite. From there, both Raw and SmackDown tried to sign him. Eric Bischoff and Stephanie McMahon each pulled out all the stops to recruit Big Poppa Pump. But when Stephanie turned down his flirtatious advances, Steiner chose Raw. In early 2003, Steiner went straight for the top, targeting World Heavyweight Champion Triple H and his faction, Evolution. Their feud wasn't just about fighting, it turned into a clash of muscles and egos. By April, Steiner took part in a bizarre televised debate with Christopher Nowinski about the Iraq War. Afterward, his focus shifted. He teamed up with Test, with Stacy Keibler as their manager. But the partnership spiraled into chaos when Test began treating Keibler poorly. At Bad Blood, Steiner beat Test to win her managerial services, only to lose her back weeks later. Their feud culminated at Unforgiven, where Steiner not only lost Stacy again, but also became Test's unwilling servant. In a twist, Steiner turned heel and fully embraced the partnership, now treating Stacy as their reluctant assistant. Later that year at Survivor Series, Steiner joined Team Bischoff and scored a big win over Team Austin, though he was the first man eliminated. A few weeks later, Mick Foley fired both Steiner and Test, finally freeing Stacy. After a final failed title run at Armageddon, Steiner competed in his last WWE match at the 2004 Royal Rumble. He was released later that year due to injuries, including major foot surgery that left him sidelined for months. In 2005, Steiner returned to wrestling through independent circuits, often teaming with his brother Rick. Their UCW matches were billed as a nostalgic return, with wins against familiar opponents like Disco Inferno and Elvis Elliott. Then in 2006, Steiner showed up in TNA at Destination X, aligning with Jeff Jarrett and acting as his enforcer. He quickly became a menacing presence, feuding with top stars like Sting, Samoa Joe, and Christian Cage. After several high-profile losses, Steiner reunited with Rick for a dream match against Team 3D at Slammiversary, which got postponed due to a throat injury. He later returned and beat Team 3D in a brutal 2 out of 3 tables match at Bound for Glory. In 2008, Steiner won the infamous Feast or Fired briefcase match, cutting his now legendary Steiner Math promo in the lead-up to a title match against Samoa Joe. Though he lost, it became one of his most unforgettable moments. He later joined the Main Event Mafia, feuded with Petey Williams, captured tag gold with Booker T, and finally clashed with Bobby Lashley before quietly departing TNA in early 2010. After leaving TNA, Scott Steiner kept his wrestling career alive, moving to the Puerto Rican promotion World Wrestling Council in March 2010. He made his debut by attacking the reigning Universal Heavyweight Champion, Rey Gonzalez, making an immediate impact. A month later at Camino a la Gloria 2010, Steiner faced Gonzalez for the title. It wasn't his night as he lost the championship match, but he bounced back in a rematch, defeating Gonzalez on April 24th to claim the Universal Heavyweight Championship. But his reign was short-lived. On May 29th, he was stripped of the title after a controversial no-contest finish against Gonzalez. Steiner's journey took him back to TNA in January 2011, where he made an unexpected return as a face. He came to the aid of Kurt Angle, Matt Morgan, and Crimson, fending off the forces of Fortune and Immortal. The following week, Fortune made a shocking move, turning on Immortal and aligning with Steiner, Angle, and Crimson, creating an intriguing new faction. At Against All Odds in February, Steiner, along with James Storm and Robert Roode, defeated Immortals Rob Terry, Gunner, and Murphy in a 6-man tag match. Steiner was the one who pinned Gunner after delivering his signature Frankensteiner. Steiner's next feud was with Rob Terry, who attacked him during a pose-down segment. The rivalry heated up, and on the next Impact, Steiner got his revenge by defeating Terry in a singles match. He then formed a tag team with Crimson, and the two picked up wins, including a victory over Ink Inc. at Lockdown. However, they lost a 4-way tag team match to Ink Inc. in the #1 contenders match. But things turned when Steiner turned heel, attacking Matt Morgan after they both expressed interest in winning the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Their backstage brawl set the stage for a heated feud, which continued with Steiner costing Morgan his match with Jeff Jarrett. At Slammiversary 9, Steiner and Morgan clashed one-on-one, with Morgan emerging victorious to end their bitter rivalry. In June 2011, Scott Steiner joined Immortal on Impact Wrestling, further cementing his place in the faction. At Hardcore Justice in August, Steiner, Abyss, and Gunner lost to Fortune in a six-man tag match. A few months later at Turning Point, Steiner teamed with Bully Ray, but lost to Mr. Anderson and Abyss in another tag bout. After a period of inactivity, Steiner was released from TNA in March 2012. However, he quickly stayed active in wrestling. In 2010, he won the Canadian Wrestling International Heavyweight Championship by defeating Brutus Beefcake and defended it against stars like Kevin Nash and Big Van Vader. He also toured Europe, claiming the Dutch Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship in 2013. In 2015, Steiner appeared at City Field's Legends of Wrestling event, where he had a match with Rob Van Dam. Afterward, he and Doc Gallows attacked RVD, leading to Bill Goldberg's intervention. In 2017, Steiner returned to Impact Wrestling, briefly teaming with Josh Matthews. By 2018, he teamed with Eli Drake to win the Impact World Tag Team Championships, but lost them soon after. Steiner's final match in Impact was in 2019, where he teamed with Petey Williams and Jordan Grace. Later that year, he joined the NWA, challenging Aaron Stevens for the national championship. And that wraps up today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you're always up to date with the latest content.